Sneeples. We have the playthrough videos. This video is going to have Uzuri and Katsu, two heroes that I expect to have continued success into the DTD season, that's Dust Till Dawn. This Uzuri I am playing against in my playthrough with is more of a redline Uzuri. So keep that in mind. There's definitely a different playstyle for a more blue heavy Uzuri, where you want to set up frost text and insidious chills. And then the Katsu is kind of what you would expect to see out of Katsu, and how I think it's going to be going into the Dust Till Dawn season. I think Katsu is going to be pretty huge this next season. So let's get into those videos and see what we got. Okay, so here we have Iyslander versus Katsu. As mentioned before, Katsu I think is going to be one of the good decks. Oldham's not holding back anymore. We'll go first, and almost every matchup we want to go first. So we'll go first with this one. Now with this hand, I have two red attacks. I don't generally want that to be the case. So what I'm going to choose here is to attack with one of them, keeping the Command and Conquer behind. And the reason is that I want to arsenal a blue card and disrupt them. So I'm going to put the Winter's Bite in Arsenal. It's a bit of disruption. If timed right, it can take a card away and add a Frostbite. And that's kind of what we're going for here. And maybe we get chip damage in. But as you can see, he blocked out, which is fine. And he actually blocked with a Dishonor, so that was pretty good for him because that's what he wants in his discard, because he will use a Bonds to get that. So Winter's Bite in the arsenal. Now, I'm looking at Aether Ice Vein. I would love to play that card. And we'll see if I'm going to be able to, but that just might not be the case. Surging Strike coming in. And that's the thing. I would try to keep a hand, but when he's presenting Surging Strike, I don't see good things to come if I let that hit. So unfortunately, gonna have to use the Aether Ice Vein to block here, but we have to block. We just can't let that happen. So here's where I think the most ideal time to use Winter's Bite is, just because he has no resources, and he's gonna have to discard a card out of his hand. It's clear that he didn't have the second piece to the combo of Surgeon Strike, which is good for us. And him getting a Bonds out actually felt like more of a win. He's probably going to get an Arsenal here, which I was correct on. And now I can threaten his Arsenal with a Command and Conquer. So that's what we'll do. And as you can see here, we're not going to have an Arsenal ourselves. And even though Katsu's an aggro deck and we want to provide disruption, if our attacks provides disruption, we don't have to Arsenal. And so that's why we're totally cool with attacking with Command and Conquer and not having an Arsenal. So he's going to give us the Arsenal, which is the E-Strike, which isn't the worst card to take away, and come in with another Surging Strike, pitching a Surging Strike. So we're seeing a lot of Surging Strikes early on. So we're going to have to block this, because even with a 3-card hand, he could be just fine. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm deciding, is he going to have an Arsenal? If he's going to have an Arsenal, the Command and Conquer would provide disruption again. But with the E-Strike, now I can attack for 5 and have an Arsenal. And if I need to block the next attack, I can block with the Command and Conquer and Arsenal the E-Strike. Alright, so it's just a Snatch. And he already has a card in hand. So him hitting with this card is not the worst. So basically we just take 4. And now he gets to choose what card to put in Arsenal. That's the big advantage he has here. But it's not a huge advantage because he's already going to have an Arsenal. So 5 draw a card. Getting the Aether Ice Vein red isn't ideal in this matchup. Obviously, we would like some sort of blue disruption. But if we can find an opportunity, we might be able to play his card and take cards out of his hand. And at least we're getting physical damage through. And as you know, that's how we win with this deck. So this hand in particular is pretty nice because I have a Blizzard to threaten some Frostbite. I also have a Sink Below. So this looks like a hand that might actually let me have the Aether Ice Vein. So I'm going to use the Blizzard here. This is going to give him a Frostbite and force him to pay. And basically, I'm trying to take away his big turn because he did take the whole 5 damage. So he's clearly trying to have some sort of turn. Okay, so he pays with a Bonds, which is probably pretty good for us. So now we're looking at a 3-card hand to see if he can combo with it. Alright. So, just thinking about what he's trying to do here. If need be, we can use the Ironhide Gauntlets if we have to. But it's just a spinning wheel kick. I am okay letting this hit. But I'll go ahead and use the sink here. Oh, no, I can't let this hit. That makes sense. I used the sink here because of the massive momentum. And he chose to use the Breaking Scales in order to draw a card. That was a calculated risk. I remember this now. He didn't get a block value with the Breaking Scales, so it was a bit of a tempt. And I'm actually more okay with this. Like, is it the most ideal? No, but Breaking Scales is something that's probably going to happen at some point. And the fact that he followed it up with the E-Strike was actually the biggest win for us. Because had he done like combo line or some sort of combo chain, then we could be in trouble. But because he didn't, we were actually quite fine. And now we can finally use our Aether Ice Vein. And so we're going to pitch the Ice Bolt because the Cold Snap adds more disruption when he has an arsenal. And what we're expecting here is him to pitch a blue, take 4 damage, and then Arcane Barrier 1, and then use the 2 remaining to pay for the Aether Ice Vein cost. And as you can see here, okay, so he just pitches. So he just takes all 5 and pitches. We're not very far behind as far as life goes, so we're actually pretty chilling. All right, so he plays it from the arsenal, which is a bit unfortunate because we would really like to freeze the arsenal, but now we cannot. All right, so he is going to end up getting the pump here. So he's going to be able to get over. Now, if he wants to call out Surgeon Strike, he's going to have to develop another source of resource. So that's what he does there with the Whelming Gust Wave being pitched. Discards a Snatch. So it's more than likely getting a... Okay, yeah, so he got a Bond. So he has the combo in his hand. So now we gotta look on like what we can do to stop. Unfortunately, everything's free here, so 1 Frostbite isn't gonna do anything. So at this point, what I have to do is I have to try to stop the mask. I can draw a card with Cold Snap. Certainly do that. And that might be the case, but we'll let this hit. See, luckily he doesn't have Breaking Scales anymore. So now we can full block this here. And I'm seeing what he's going to grab. He doesn't have too many targets. He obviously has the Dishonor. So with that being a target, that has to get blocked for sure. So he's just searching here. Okay, so he grabs the Dishonor. So we expect to see it. So now it's just a matter of, do we let him have the card draw? Because he did hit, and he did call that Surging Strike, so he will have the full Dishonor effect here. Because it was a Descendant Gust Wave that came after. Now, if he plays Dishonor, it won't have go again. So the card draw, it will not matter. Okay, so he does get the card draw, and that's because we can't let Dishonor hit. We obviously want to have Iyslander's ability, so we do have to save our blocks for Dishonor. Now, see, luckily here he doesn't have breaking skills. If he drew an Ancestral Empowerment or Razor Reflex, yeah, we are boned. But luckily that wasn't the case. And now we're just going to swing for 7 and gain 2 life from the Heart and the Endless Fighting Spirit. If this hits, he goes to 17, and it's still a close game, you know. That was a big turn for him, and that's what Katsu does, right? Like, Katsu just needs one thing to hit that matters. So in this case, Be Like Water, turning into a Surging Strike, and then he's chilling. All right, so this is a hand for Katsu, but you don't want all 3 Channel Lakes in one hand. Unfortunately, that's what we got. So at this point, I'm just trying to decide, you know, am I going to Blizzard this now? Am I going to Cold Snap here just to get a Frostbite and draw a card? And that's what I'm choosing. So we'll pitch that. Channel Lake Frigid. And now we're just going to block with a Channel Lake Frigid. And it just all seems to whack. But that's just how it goes. Here again, he's going to, you know, get the plus. So at this point, though, we have much more disruption. And we can stop a big turn from happening. So that's what we're going to do here. So now he's going to have 1 Frostbite because one of them is going to break. And then he'll have to pay 2 to allow this to go again. So we'll see what happens here. This is before he draws the card. So he had to get rid of Razor Reflex. Still has to go again now. But now he's a little starved on resources. Because if he pitches or if he uses Katsu ability here, like, basically, we're good. Because he would have to pitch a blue or a yellow to use Be Like Water's ability. And then use Katsu's ability, you know, discarding his 0 cost to grab, like, a Whelming Gust Wave. So, this Blizzard was big. I think it was more of the fact that he just didn't have a heavy resource hand. And now we have 2 damage being able to be presented here. So he pitches a blue, which is good. And then, you know, uses his last Be Like Water, grabs the Whelming Gust Wave, and now is going to come in for 4. Now, I can really only block 2 here. And the reason is because Channel Lake Frigid is so good in this matchup that I really want to play it out, so I really want to arsenal that card. And I don't want to block a Coronet Peak, and the reason is because that is the easiest way to keep Channel Lake Frigid around. I'm clearly thinking about it, because if I can keep him off a card in the arsenal, that might be worth it. But it just makes Channel Lake Frigid harder to keep around. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. I'm kind of curious what I do. This has been a while since I played this game, and I'm having to re-record over it because I had soft audio. Alright, so we choose to block it full out. This does prevent him from having the arsenal, so it's not the worst case. And he just gets, like, one of these in, and then I get 3 damage in, and look at that. I'm only 1 life below him now. And he's getting close to kill range, too, which is obviously really good. Okay, so we obviously can't do anything but arsenal, which is fine. That's what we want to do. Instead of looking down a 5-card hand, we're only looking down a 4-card hand. This isn't quite the hand to keep a Channel Lake Frigid around, but I do want the Emeritus Scolding in Arsenal. That's what I can see, and I'm thinking I could play Aether Hell. Oh, okay, so I'm going to pitch the... Okay, actually, I could see that. That makes sense. So playing a Channel Lake Frigid, and then I'm going to play the Aether Hell. That is the goal. That will keep Channel Lake Frigid around. So I'll deal some Arcane, and I can even block this in a Gust Wave with Sink Below. Alright, so the fact that he didn't use Tunic here is interesting. That kind of tells me that I might not even have to block, because it just might just have reds in his hand. Like if he had a bonds, he still can't play it. So I could even try to arsenal a sink below. Curious what I do here. But I would honestly, looking back on this now, I would very heavily consider just not even blocking. Just because if he does have a bonds, it's going to cost him too. It is definitely the safer move to sink here, so I'm totally cool with that too. Um, it just stops things. Alright. And now on our turn, we're going to come in for a total of 4 arcane damage. If that gets him down to 10, that ain't too shabby. And we get to keep Channel Lake Frigid around, which is huge. Especially when he has Tunic on 3. So we can get him down to the single digits when he's presenting AB1. That is our best chance to get him to win this game. So, alright, Mr. Katsu. This is when the opponents really start thinking, is around, these like 16 and below. They start really thinking, I would say. That they take damage so easily before then, but when you get them down low enough, they really start thinking. Alright, so this hand's kind of not great. It's a good blocking hand, but I'm really looking at playing E-Strike and then, coming in for 5 and arsenaling a card and hoping that's a good one. So, I'm not going to block a Kadachi for 1. There's no point. Alright, so now I have the option is I could Aether Ice Vein here, or I can just block it. So it looks like I'm deciding to just block it. Just fine, honestly. It honestly prevents damage. I don't think there's a lot of advantage of going down to 8 to deal arcane damage to 5. Like, I think presenting 5, especially against Katsu, who doesn't necessarily like to block, is fine. Especially when I get to have an arsenal. So presenting 5 physical over 5 arcane. I understand the arcane has a mandatory discard, but I think it's okay. Because here we're still getting a card out and still getting some damage through. Unfortunately, our arsenal, though, was not... Oh, actually, yeah, we would have been able to. We'd had to arsenal the Insidious Shield, though. And Insidious Shield would have been a pretty bad arsenal. We did get to draw a Blizzard here. This is great. Just because they're pretty low on resources. So having a Blizzard, especially after playing a red searching, could be just devastating. And then, especially having a Mirror Scolding in hand, we can ideally just block with Ice Eternal, coming with Command and Conquer, putting Mirror Scolding in the arsenal. And he chooses Surge and Strike to lose to go again. So that's super beneficial for us. We're only looking at 5 this turn. This is a very unideal Katsu turn. And yeah, I think that's exactly what we're going to do. Command and Conquer, putting Mirror Scolding in the arsenal. And we are really in a good position now. Now the game is heavily favored in for us. And we're not only threatening damage, we're threatening a card out of his arsenal. Like, yeah, this is super good. So more than likely, what I expect here is to get 2 blocks. And again, when your opponent is the aggro opponents, that is, get this low, they really start thinking. So that's kind of what we're seeing now, is that they're really starting to think, which is fair, understandable, totally understandable. But yeah, this is how you do it. Like, you just slowly grind, right? You slowly, you're taking damage, right? We're both at 10 life right now. You're taking damage, you're dealing damage, you're coming in with attacks, because the attacks are what does the damage, right? Now, I think what I'm going over here is what's the outcomes. Obviously, if he doesn't block this, we just win. We are going to present 7 damage. He has AB1, so he'll take 5 arcane damage, and he'll be at 4 life. So we just win if he takes it all. If he blocks half of it, we're at a pretty good chance of being able to win. Just because it just kind of depends on what we draw in our hand. But I would say if he goes down to 7 against us with AB1, and we have a Mirror to Scolding in hand, then we're in a pretty good spot. Okay, so Massive Momentum is used to block here. That should be expected, but I did not expect just Massive Momentum. But it looks like we're looking at Oasis Respite now, and that will cover all the damage here. So, I do take a card out, right? It is just the Arsenal, and he stays at 10. Honestly, not super upset with how that went. Luckily here, we get a sink below, right? So we can get a clean block on this. And what I'm really looking at here is I want to play the Fiendl's Fighting Spirit. Okay, so he's going to follow it up here, which is pretty damn good. Following up with a Whelming Gust Wave. Here again, I am very happy he doesn't have Breaking Skills, because Breaking Skills would suck to be in this position. So now I have a few choices. I don't have my Coronet Peak, so I can't just have him discard a card. But what I can do is I can block with Fiendl's Fight or Fiendl's Spring Tunic, and I can hopefully stop what's coming. The only thing that doesn't is if that's a Bonds in his hands. If it's a Bonds of Ancestry, then we could be in trouble. Which, Katsu can just get there like that sometimes. So I'm really contemplating what I need to do. I could just double block from hand and just pass. It's not the best feeling, but it's something I certainly could do. Yeah, but I would say where I'm looking at it, I would like the Fiendless or the Fiendless Spring Tunic, but I would try to give it up, and that's what I do here. Okay. Great minds think alike. All right, so I think I was right there. I was looking at how many bonds he might have left, because that's really what I was worried about. So Snatch, not the best thing. I'm not super stoked that he has a Snatch, because that means he gets an Arsenal, but certainly not a Bond, so we'll take that, right? And the fact that he has Tide Flippers instead of snaps means that he's good. I'm not have to worry about him coming in again. And now I can gain a life and present 7, and now he has to block with cards from hand. He doesn't have his free blocks with armor anymore, other than this Spring Tunic. He's gonna have to give me more than likely 2 cards out of hand, and that's what happens. And he goes to 9. So we get an E strikeout. That's not terrible. 9 is closer. This is not a good hand to try to go off. So obviously I'm just going to try to swing the Wounded Bull here. Block it to 2 Brain Freezes. And, that's perfect. I could even block with the Cold Snap here and I can cover it. But yeah, I think it's just block with Brain Freeze. But yeah, that's pretty perfect. That was a bad turn on his end. So now we get to come in for 8. And again, he has to give us 2 blocks. And we could chip in 2 damage, get him down to 7. And now we're looking much, much closer to winning this game. This game is a little bit swingy at times. There's times where all he needed was a few cards. Had he had a Bonds right there, that might have been very, very hard for me to come back out of. But Iyslander is not an easy one to defeat. She kind of stays around the entire time. And you can see I'm just patiently holding this Mirror to Scolding and just waiting, because it just takes one hand that does good arcane damage for me to just say, okay, this is it. And the last 2 hands really haven't been that. Yeah, so this is, again, I know I've said this before, but here again, especially when you have stuff that blocks for 2, you really have to think. Yeah, and so he is just going to do that. We just let the Kodachi hit and then see if he'll swing at the second Kodachi. That'll put him down to 1. So with the tunic, he has 2 resources. Now, my freaking hand does not do arcane, which is so bummer. But you know, it's better than nothing here. Like he stays alive, which is so annoying because he'll be at 1 here. The reason why it's annoying is because I just like am so close to killing him. I just had no way to deal arcane from the hand. So we get him down to 1. We block just to take 1 damage, basically. We put a Polar Blast in. Polar Blast will let us draw a card from the arsenal. And then, yeah, now we have it, right? He has AB1. We're chilling. He could have an Oasis Respite, but we could still win because we have Waning Moon. So we just play that for good measures. And then we don't even need to be messing around here, honestly. We could first... Okay, so here's the deal. This is why I chose to do that first, and I'm going to explain that here. That's good. I could have Stormstrider's gone Emir to Scolding, but I want to see if he's going to respond with anything first. Because if he goes Oasis Respite, then I can decide, okay, let's have him do a little bit more to me. He's only coming in for 1. Let me see if he'll put out another card. Because now I could, by coming at the Waning Moon, I'm playing around 2 Oasises, right? If he has 2 Oasis in his hand, and I just go for it, the Stormstriders, and he Oasis that, and then I Waning Moon, and he Oasis that, I'm not in a great spot. You know, he won't be able to attack me if anything else but the Kodachi, but I just, like, use my boots when I didn't need to. I probably had the game anyways at that point, but I don't know. Better play safe than sorry. Okay, so that was Katsu. I hope that kind of helped out a little bit because this is going to be a matchup I think we're going to see more of. You just have to be careful with this matchup. This matchup, like I said, is super swingy. Just be careful and block those surging strikes. Block those be like waters. Don't even risk it. Don't even risk it. Okay, let's move on to Uzuri. Against Uzuri, and this particular build happened to be a redline Uzuri. Most of the Talishar decks most of the Talishar Uzuris that I played were redline. Here I'm just mentioning how you always want to go first, but it's kind of funny how my win rate's better going second. Okay, so with a hand like this, what we can do instantly is just give him Frostbites. He only has AB1, so what we can do here is Ice Eternal for 2, so paying 4 into it, and then keeping the Winter's Bite to provide some disruption on their turn. We get 2 Arcane, and we give him 2 Frostbites. Now he could pitch, but he doesn't. He chooses not to pitch for the Arcane. And we get a disruption. So it's like a pretty good turn 1. You know, I've seen City's Chill, or would have been pretty cool there, but, you know, that's not bad. So Uzuri's pretty good at just attacking once. Threatening our arsenal here, so go ahead and play the Winter's Bite. So at least provide another Frostbite and then have them discard a card. So that's what they do. So now I'm just kind of looking, and what I'm really looking at here is I have too many cards. I can obviously use one to block, which is a Brain Freeze, and then look to do a blue Aether Ice Vein. Since he has AB1, I will get damage in. He somehow luckily hits a red card when most of my deck's blue. So he does get a silver off that, leave no witnesses. But here I get to get some arcane damage as well as force him to discard a card. So that's exactly what happens. And then we get to have the Channel Lake Frigid in the arsenal. Channel Lake Frigid is not like the absolute best thing against Uzuri normally, but if they are a redline Uzuri, then it is actually pretty damn good. So, alright, so I'm going to go ahead and play the Leave No Witness. So we're just going to go ahead and play the Channel Lake Frigid out so that it doesn't get hit. blocking with Meredith Scolding always kind of feels weird, but I think in this case we're probably okay. I'm still not 100% sure what line this Uzuri is, if it's red line or not. Nothing has popped out instantly to tell me one thing or the other. And again, they get another red card, which is just great luck. Great luck. But so that's why we haven't seen any attacks. 2 of our attacks got banished. It's pretty gnarly. But here we get them to discard a card. We get to keep the channel, and then we get to put Insidious Chill in the arsenal. And yeah, we'll definitely be using this Insidious Chill against Uzuri. That's one of the cards we definitely want to have out, as well as Frost-X. Now, I don't actually think I have Frost-X in this build, and as mentioned before, a lot of Tavshar Usuris I was facing a red line, and Frost-X is just not as good at red line. But Frost-X is much, much better against non-red line Uzuri. So Uzuris that look to go in a more longer lasting game. That's really where I want the Frost-X. And so I think from here. Now, Razor's Edge is pretty telling that it's a red line Uzuri. No other Uzuris really play that card. So now I'm pretty happy about the Channeling Frigid. I can keep it around because I can play the Insidious Chill and then Waning Moon. So we're looking pretty good. I'll probably block with the Frosting. Alright, so Leave No Witness. So we've seen all 3 Leave No Witnesses in the first 3 turns. With no Codex of Frailties either, so pretty gnarly. Alright. So I'm really thinking, what I want to block with. And I want to block for 5, and the reason is because I don't want to. I already blocked with 1 Emir Scolding. I don't want to have another just be used up. I want to try to either play these Emir Scoldings or pitch them. I don't really want to block them a lot. And if he had a Shred there, I could just instant speed the Insidious Chill out, so it wasn't the worst. But here I get to have Emir Scolding in the arsenal, and Channeling Frigid just gets to stay around. So now we're at 34 all, and we're chilling. Okay, so an Isolate. So he's basically going to have to require all cards to be to do the Isolate. So we only block 1 card, so we might as well block one of the weaker cards that we have. Alright, and there's nothing we can do about that. And so we just have to take the hit. Now, 9 times out of 10, they're going to give us an Inertia token as Iyslander. So now I have the choice. I can play this is Mirror Scolding now, so it can deal 4 and get some arcane damage in, and then just E-Strike for 7, basically. So at least we get to use up our whole hand and come in for big damage. Obviously, most times we'd want to do the E-Strike and draw a card so that we have a card for the arsenal, but that's just not the case this time around. But now they're at 23 and we're at 31, so we're kind of chilling. We do have Insidious Chill over there. Encase is pretty good in this matchup, just because Encase prevents Uzuri's ability from happening, as well as with Insidious Chill, we'll have them discard a card. Now against E-Strike, it's just 5 vanilla damage, so we'll take the 5 damage. That's not the problem. The problem is all those on hits that she provides. And now what we're seeing is over pitching an Oasis Respite to play a Spider's Bite. So that kind of tells me that there's probably an Oasis Respite in the arsenal, because I would imagine most times Uzuri wants to put Oasis Respite in the arsenal. So I don't think much is coming out of this turn. But kind of the other problem though is like I can't really do much with a 4-card hand who has Iyslander. I could do pretty well with a 2-card hand, or maybe even a 3-card hand. Well, actually, yeah, I can do well with a 3-card hand, but the 4-card hand is a little tough. But I choose to take it because it does have go again. Oh, and then we see a Codex of Frailty. So that is the other thing that typically does get Arsenal. We do have to put an E-Strike in. Not the worst thing. They choose to do a Death Touch, so we know we're going to get an Inertia token. So now it's just a matter of where do we want to, go with this. Now, we can just double block here, which is what we choose to do. Block out the damage, and then with E-Strike, now we can refill our arsenal. We're only going to come in for 4 because of the Frailty token. But we get to present damage and refill our arsenal. So, all in all, not too bad. It's a Wounded Bull, which is not disruptive, but it's fine. Having red cards in the arsenal is fine. There's a red Infect, and that is just kind of like the final nail in the coffin that this is a red-oriented Uzuri. Alright, we can't do much here. Just block with 1 card. That's really all we can do. And just accept whatever he gives us. But the good thing is with this is like, yeah, even if surgical, like we're good here. No matter what he takes, we're fine. He does get a Channel Lake Fridge off the top. This gives him that up to 3 silver. So, if he chooses, he can use Black Text Whispers at some point. But yeah, any card that he takes, it's good here. I think, honestly, taking the Heart of... I guess I'm not going to gain a life with the Heart, so I can see not taking that. Alright, so I don't want to reveal my arsenal to him. So we're just going to attack with the Fiendless Fine Spirit. It doesn't gain me a life. Both these cards don't gain me a life, unfortunately. But it does keep my arsenal hidden, and so we like that. Alright, so Ravenous Rabble. For 7. It's, again, it just doesn't have an on hit. So I can see me taking this. I have a Scar for Scar in hand, so if I can get that going and attack with that and Wounded Bull, that's a pretty good turn. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and give him the Aether Ice Vein because I just don't see me being able to do that. I guess I'm thinking about the Insidious Chill and how this could, especially being a red line deck, how this really could be something I need. But I think, I think that's just a safer play for sure. Alright. And then another Surging. So, whatever he takes is fine with me here. The Cold Snap is good to be put in the arsenal. The Aether Ice Vein, probably even better, just because of Insidious Chill. So, there's nothing he could take here that would really, really hurt me. And then, of course, he has silver for days. So he takes the Aether Ice Vein. That's totally fine. What sucks here, though, is that I am at the same life. So I'm not even, 1 life ahead. So it's pretty brutal. I do get to come in for 7, which that part's kind of nice. But I am, once again, putting a red in the arsenal. And boy, does that not feel great against... Uzuri. Now, luckily, Leave No Witnesses are done. I don't have to worry about that. And 1 Codex Frailty we've seen already. So, I draw an all red hand, which is one of the worst things to do. Luckily, 1's an E-Strike. And here, I just kind of got to accept my fate that I am going to get some Blood Rot tokens here. And then... that I know he has Oasis in the arsenal. Which I'm sure he wasn't thrilled about letting me know. Yeah. Not happy with how it's going. Insidious Chill is still at 3, annoyingly. Scar for Scar is still in the arsenal, because it just does not have to go again. But he's at 9, right? And so, he is in kill range. Even though, the game plan hasn't gone the way we'd want it, the fact is that we are swinging damage, and that is tallying up. Alright, so we get a lot of his armor blocking that. Now we're going to go down to 6. So now we're a little worried ourselves, to be honest. Yeah, and all we can really do here is just block and hope for the best. And all we see is a Spike of Blood Rot. So... all we're taking here is 1 pseudo 3 damage, But now we get to come in with Scarf. So we're really looking good now. And look at how good our hand is. Like, we get to do Encase Fused to activate Insidious Chill. So now he has to give us another card because he chose not to block this Scarf. He will use the Oasis here. That's fine. It's going to have to get used at some point anyhow. So we're kind of chilling. He still has to discard a card here. And then, so no damage there. But we can deal 3 damage. And yeah, we're going to take some Blood Rot damage, but that's fine. If we can get him down to 3, which is exactly what we do, we're chilling. So now we have the guaranteed kill. Yeah, I have it in hand. I don't even need to worry about... Yeah, and so now I can just do it, right? Do 4, and yeah, he couldn't block it anyway. So a quicker match, which is kind of surprising because sometimes these go short. But when they are a red line deck, they are more aggressive decks, so they will be a more quicker game. And as you can see, we just did physical damage. You can see from the damage dealt those turns, just doing physical damage was really where it was at. And we both went down. And that's kind of how it goes when a red line Uzuri. You're going to go down both ways. They're going to disrupt you. You're going to disrupt them. But you have the extra turn at the end to win the game. And that's it. So, okie dokie. I appreciate you guys watching.
All right, guys, just want to wrap things up with saying thanks for watching. Hope this learned a little bit. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments, even make any critiques. I'm always open for that. I'm learning from you guys just as much as you guys are learning from me. And yeah, let me know if there's a matchup that you haven't seen me play yet that you really want to see. I know Dromai is a pretty big one. I haven't really been able to get a Dromai on Dallas Shark quite yet, but if there's any other matchups that you guys really want to learn and really want to see, let me know, and I can make an additional video to this series. So not a problem at all. But yeah, leave any questions, comments. I'll get back to them as soon as possible. But again, just thanks for watching, guys.